Hello, this is Sophie Crawford and welcome to In the Roud.
Greetings and salutations, dear listeners. This is In the Roud, a folk song podcast, and I'm your host, Matt Quinn. Join me as we travel through the world of traditional folk song, one song per episode in the order they appear in the Roud Index. Each episode normally features two guests, one providing an historical look at the song, while the other will be a singer from the folk music scene to talk about their own version of the song. This podcast is proud to be partly sponsored by the Traditional Song Forum. Meeting regularly both in person and online, the TSF provides a place for a variety of topics related to folk song, song collectors, singers, and many other aspects of folk song research to be presented and discussed. It's free to join and most meetings are free to attend, so discover more about the TSF at www.tradsong.org. That's tradsong.org. So let's get going. This week's song is Roud 64, which is Child Ballad 100, Willie of Winsbury. Later on, we'll hear from our returning singer guest, Sophie Crawford, but for now, let's take a look at the song's history with returning historical contributor, Sheena Wellington. Well, hello and welcome back yet again to In the Roud. Sheena Wellington, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, yes, overall not too bad. For various reasons, I've been doing more driving than usual recently. Lots of 6-hour round trips with a heavy car load, but I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, carnival, as we say up here, carnival. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, nice to see you again. We had you last week on the podcast, 2 weeks in a row now for you, because last week we were dealing with Johnny Scott, which we're recording this before that episode goes out, so I'm sure it went very well, the whole episode, because I haven't heard the whole thing yet. But so today we're coming to the next Roud number, obviously, because that's how this podcast works, but it's also the next child ballad as well. Roud 64, and then Johnny Scott was child 99, which makes this one child 100. That doesn't mean we've reached 100 child ballads on the podcast, because Steve Roud missed a lot out as he initially went through. But this is its immediate neighbour, child 100, Willie of Winsbury. A song a lot of people will know. We've gone from a practically unknown child ballad last week, Johnny Scott, to an extraordinarily well-known one with Willie of Winsbury. I guess this is very popular, this one.
Yeah, this is very popular, and certainly in the last 50 years. And I think a lot of the popularity has to do with the tune, which, according to Andy Irvin, he took from another child ballad, and there's a wee bit of, well, not dispute, but a little bit of confusion about which particular child ballad he got the tune from.
That's right, but, and I think we worked it out, because if listeners listen to all of our episodes, I'm pretty sure that last season we covered a song where that melody is actually for. I think I worked out that it was Jelon Graham. So that was, if anyone goes back to that one, Jelon Graham we did last season, it was Roud 58, Child 90, because there's only one tune, and we'll come to this later, but there's one tune in Bronson for Jelon Graham, and it is extraordinarily similar to some of the bits of the main tune for Willie of Winsbury that people know now. So we'll come to that later on. Start us off, as always, with a bit of a sort of plot summary and what's the song about?
Well, throughout all the versions of the song, there is the king or someone of high degree anyway, who has gone off to fight or do business or whatever in Spain or France, leaving behind his family. He comes back to find that his daughter is pregnant. He asks her if it's to a man of high degree, and she says no, it's Willie or Thomas of Winsbury, or it's Johnny Barber, or even in some versions, it's Tom the Barber. And the king says, right, bring him to me. He's getting hanged. That's it. We're not having this kind of thing. So his men go out and they drag Johnny back, and he's got brought, or Willie or Thomas or whoever, and he's brought before the king, and he stands there with his golden hair, his silk clothes, and his skin white as the milk. And the king goes, "Oh, wow, you are gorgeous. If I was a lassie, I would be jumping on you. Will you marry my daughter? And I'll give you loads of land." And Willie, Thomas, Johnny, or whoever says, "I will marry your daughter, but I don't need your land because I am a king or a big lord in my own right," or something, which is wonderful because it's a child ballad with a happy ending.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's also probably the one which is often called the gay ballad because of that verse,
Indeed,
when the king is quite happy to say he's attracted to a man.
that's right.
Um,
It's been yeah. It's the obvious ballad when I have. In fact, Sophie Crawford, who's in this episode later on, she and George Sansom have this project called Queer Folk, which I'm sure we'll discuss later on. And whenever they have, they say, "Does anyone know any songs or ballads that have sort of queer readings, that sort of thing?" 99% people always say Willie of Winsbury. It's the one that people come to. It's on the Patreon. We just covered our Captain Cried All Hands, which has the bit at the end about the sort of queer reading thing about maids when you're alone love one each other and that
yes,
sort of thing. And Vic Gammon, this people on the Patreon will be able to hear this, but Vic Gammon found that line in a broadside ballad from the 1680s. Where the entire song, the entire broadside ballad is from a woman's perspective saying, "Men are awful. I'm going to love women from now on." And this is in the 1680s. It's extraordinary. It's not an old concept. But yeah, Willie of Winsbury. It's yes, a very happy ballad in that no one dies.
and a happy ballad.
It,
It's
it's
in all senses of the word, it's a gay ballad.
yes,
Um, it's it's one that I must admit I like. I like it particularly in recent years. Well, when I say in recent years, from about 1970 onwards, um, it seems to have found one particular tune, and most of the modern versions have this one particular tune, which is the one which Andy Irvine got from another ballad. At least that's his story, and he's sticking to it.
yeah.
But it is a lovely tune, and there are some beautiful versions.
Yeah, and there are lots of actual, what you might could say, actual tunes for this ballad, rather than the one that ended up being with it, which we think has come
Being with
from
it.
Gel and Graham in the end. But there are
Yes,
loads of others. But we'll come to tunes later
there's
on.
lots of other tunes. Yeah,
Yeah.
but this there are. It's been around for a long time, it's not actually clear how long because Thomas or William of Winsbury seems to be the most popular version. And Thomas and William of Winsbury in Shropshire were given protection for being in Scotland in November 1330, which I think is quite interesting.
Oh, okay.
Winsbury is a wee township just to the west of Chibbury, and it was the base of the Winsbury family in the 13th and 14th centuries. Now, quite where they were, he was a kind of mid-level official, but whether it has actual relevance, I mean, because that would make the king David II. David II didn't have any children, And actually, there is some historical evidence that David II was gay. Whether that's
Ah,
whether that's true or not, I don't know.
well, it might line up with this song, you know,
It might line up
how he
with
feels about Thomas or Willie. Yeah.
the song, how he feels about whether there was some kind, because there was always gossip. There was always gossip. People always think, oh, the common people didn't know what was going on. Of course, the common people knew what was going on because it was the common people who were making the beds. It was the common people who were emptying the chamber pots. It was the common people who were serving the dinners, these things. So, of course, they knew what was going on.
Mm.
So, things did not stay secret very long. But I think it's possibly stretching it. It would be nice to think that one of our ballads had survived from wherever, 1330, 14th century,
But
probably.
it would be nice to think that. But I know that certainly in terms of the Roud Index, the earliest entry we have for this song is 1769, because that's in the David
That may
Hurd
just mean it's
manuscript.
the first time anybody's noticed, of course.
That's what I mean. It's the earliest reference we have for it at the
Yeah.
moment is in the David Hurd manuscripts,
Uh-huh.
1769, called Willie Winchbury, Winchberrie, Winchbury.
I wasn't able to find Winsbury either. I looked for it and I
Yeah,
didn't
no idea in that one,
come up with that.
but it's there, and
But
it's
it definitely has an English sound to it because it wouldn't be Bury in Scotland. It would be Urgh.
right.
We
Okay,
don't have things that end in Bury.
yeah.
But
And
no,
then
it's
that version is printed as version B in Child, with
uh
10 verses, I think. But it has got the dots in Child above verse 1. So I think Child omitted something from before what he called verse 1. But nevertheless, it's there in Child if anyone wants to see it.
yeah. I'll
And
just have a quick look at Child.
what aileth ye, my doctor dismal? Ye look so pale and wan. How ye had any sore sickness or ill love with a man?
Yes,
And he's Willie in that one. Yeah, Willie Winchbury
it's
and
Willie. Yes,
uh, Dismal. Is that how you pronounce that?
sorry,
DYSM. The daughter's name DYSMILL. Dismal.
Dismal. It would be Dismal. It seems
Dismal.
weird, but
She has taken off her bonny brown gown, she has laid it on the stain. Her waist was big, her side was round, her fair colour was gone. She's pregnant and pale, basically, is what that means.
yes, there's a lot of it about. Um, yeah, it's he has some interesting looking things. He's got the proud King of France and 7 years. The 17th Thomas was his daughter's chamberlain. So that comes up in several of the things,
Yeah.
which is probably why the king wanted to hang him, because if he was her chamberlain, he was in a position of trust and he'd abused the position of trust. So hang him. But if he'd appointed him, you'd have thought he'd have noticed he was good looking and taken him with him. But oh, there you go. He probably wasn't allowed in those days. Well,
Yeah,
it would be.
maybe, yeah.
But no, it is interesting how the tune which Andy sung has really struck a chord with everything. But even so, I mean, Barbara Dixon has her version from Buchan, but she takes the tune that Andy sang. And
Yeah.
Ed Miller, I'm not quite sure where he took his version from, but again, it's the tune Annie Briggs. The only one who doesn't, well, the only one I have, apart from field recordings, who doesn't, is Frankie Armstrong, who does a wonderful version. It's on her In the Garden of Love album,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and it really is. It really is a nice tune, and it brings a brightness to the song. And that's the only one that comes to mind, and I've got about 17 different versions of it, with that tune. The one that's really interesting is Dick Gawkins, because Dick, of course, does an absolutely wonderful version with the most amazing guitar work on it. And although it's on Handful of Earth, is it on Handful of Earth? Yes, it is on Handful of Earth. Oh, crumbs, that's going to annoy me now. But Dick's version does not sing the gay verse. Also, on the sleeve notes, he says, I didn't think of this song until I learned a verse which changed everything. And whether the verse that changed everything is the gay verse or not, he still didn't sing it. And there's the most beautiful guitar break where that verse should be. Now, Dick Gaughan would not shy away from a gay verse. I mean, Dick has spent his entire career championing the cause of the oppressed, whether they were black South Africans, gay people in Leith, or anything else. And he wouldn't have shied away from sort of a little bit of celebratory thing. And I've always meant to ask him why he didn't sing that verse on the recording. And for some reason, I never actually did, possibly because I don't think I've ever heard him sing it live on any occasions when I've been at his concerts or he's been at the club or whatever. He hasn't. If he'd sung it live, I would probably have asked him. I'd have remembered to ask him.
Well, I found some sleeve notes here from Dick Gaughan where he's explained why he doesn't sing it anymore. He said, this is a paragraph, I'll try and read this out. I particularly like this one due to Willie's indignant rejection of the King's clumsy attempts to bribe him with offers of property. The last time I sang this song was in Liverpool to a solidly working-class audience. When I got to the line where Willie rejects the King's insulting assumption that he was merely after advancement and tells him where to shove his land, the audience stood and cheered. I realised at that point that never again would I be able to sing it, as finally an audience had truly understood the key element of the song, and it would be an anticlimax forevermore. I've never sung it since.
Oh, is that on one of the reissues?
It's the Green Tracks anthology called Prentice Boy. Prentice Piece. Sorry.
Prentice Piece. I've got that.
So there are.
Why didn't I probably didn't look at the sleeve notes, which was shameful. Absolutely shameful.
That's all right. It's
Oh,
on
dear.
It's on Main Norfolk. But yeah, so he's never sung it for a long time because once an audience got it in his mind.
That's Dick for you.
Yeah.
But that is interesting because that is obviously the verse that he found that changed everything. And it still doesn't explain why he doesn't sing the verse where the king says, "Oh wow,
no idea.
you're gorgeous."
Yeah.
But
yeah, on the trad side, it's been found quite a lot. So my usual Roud index statistics. We've got the folk song index provides us with 156 entries, which is quite nice. That's a good amount. Although a lot of those will be duplicates, triplicates, because things get reprinted and republished. So maybe take it down by a third or something. But then in the broadside index, we have 11 entries in the broadside index. Some called they're almost all called Lord Thomas of Winsbury, or they're called The Merchant's Daughter. Printed in London, there's 2 printed in London, 5 in Stirling, and 1 in Glasgow for broadsides.
Well, there you go.
So which is quite nice. Nice, but then on the folk song side, which is more what we're talking about, really, it has travelled. It's predominantly stayed over this side of the world, the side of the water. 36 entries for Scotland, but then I say it stayed over here. 36 entries for Scotland. The next highest amount of entries is Canada with 26. Yeah, but then England with 25, then England with 25, Ireland 21, USA 16, Northern Ireland 11, etc. But yeah, so Scotland, Canada, and England are the are the highest, the top three, you know.
Also, if you added them together, it would be the island of Ireland, which has the highest number. If you
It would, of
counted
course.
Northern Ireland and the Republic together.
Oh no, it would still. Yes, that's right. So Ireland would have. It would in fact. So Ireland 21, Northern Ireland 11, so 32. So the top three would actually be Scotland, Ireland, Canada,
Hmm.
in that
I
order.
think Canada's bigger because a lot of Scots went to Canada,
Yes,
and there's
it's
still a
always.
strong
And the
bond
thing,
when you go
it's
there.
always interesting because what we should probably do is get a map of Canada and put pins in Canada where all of these Canadian versions are found. And chances are they're mostly on the East Coast, you know, because people emigrating and landing on the shores and then not going much further into Canada.
Mhm.
It's, or at least not on the coast, but it's on the east side of Canada, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, if it takes 8 hours to drive from east to west Canada now, you're not going to do that. You're going to make that journey if you went over there in the
if you've got a
1800s,
horse
you know.
and cart.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's, and I think predominantly the Canada entries, I'm scanning down them now, it's predominantly Newfoundland. So that side of Canada. Um, but it's good that it's travelled, you know, it's not just stuck
Oh,
to Scotland, you know, not there's anything wrong with
oh,
that.
oh yeah,
But
I'm delighted that it's traveled because it is a lot. It's a lovely story. I have to. I think in some ways I agree with Dick. I like the idea that he tells the king, the landlord, or whoever the heck it is, to stuff his money up his jumper. Um, it's
yeah,
it's a kind of nice bit of defiance. You like to think it's a nice bit of Scottish defiance, although
yeah,
the idea that we would turn away money is madness.
I know. Who'd do it, you know? Or if it's not, if he gives you property, sell the property, accept it and sell it, you know. Then you get even more money. And I'm
Yeah,
just
but
looking at. I'm just now trying to do this.
it was obviously true love. It was obviously true love.
Indeed, I'm just looking,
Yeah.
and I'm just scanning through the USA versions. Yeah, we've got versions collected in West Virginia, New York, Vermont. That might be it. But yeah, across. I mean, that's because that's where some of the collecting went on. Helen Hartnett's Flanders collection, there's a few Vermont ones, the New York ones. Oh, there you go. It's Flanders again. There's a book, Ancient Ballads Traditionally Sung in New England.
Mhm.
Um,
It's interesting that the I think with a lot of ballads, the stories of royalty or whoever tend to get attached to a ballad that sounds reasonable. I was just looking at Child, and Kinloch's ancient Scottish ballads seem to be fairly sure that the ballad may be about James V of Scotland, the good man of Ballingeach,
right.
who was wont to wander about his people in um,
Oh, in disguise.
not
Yeah.
wearing, yeah, in disguise. And when he went to look at the Duke of Vendôme's daughter, he didn't fancy her and went off where he met the French princess. And she fancied him so much she wasn't going to have anybody else.
Right.
But she died quite young, and he married Mary of Guise, and of course became the father of Mary Queen of Scots, who was born as her father lay wounded on his deathbed. Ah, history's a funny thing, really. And he made the immortal quip, "It cam wi a lass, and it'll gang wi a lass," which meant that the crown came to the Stuarts through a woman, a Stuart daughter who married into not a Stuart daughter, a Stuart son who married the king's daughter. And he thought it would go with his daughter, but of course she married a Stuart, and her son was also a Stuart. So the Stuart dynasty hung on for a good wee while. And well,
Right.
you could say it's still hanging on because, of course, the present monarch has Stuart blood. It's a wee bit diluted by now, but it's there.
And the names are interesting. It's for the male lead. It's mostly Willie or Thomas or Johnny, isn't it? Those are the three, I think, or
Yeah.
Johnny. And then for the woman, in sort of the Scots versions and Chard, she either hasn't got a name or she's sort of Jane or Janet. It's all that sort of thing, isn't it? I think.
Yes, which was kind of the go-to names, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
They, when in doubt, call her Janet.
I know. I always thought Janet was a bit odd because I've never, in my youth and not having heard as many folk songs as I have now, I always felt that it was a bit of an odd name for a woman in a old folk song, Janet. But obviously, it turns up all over the place. The more I delve into these ballads, the more it turns up. It just 20 years ago when I first heard the song, I thought, really, Janet? That's not very. It's not the most sort of poetic, sort of singable word, Janet. But it's obviously fine. Apologies to anyone out there called Janet who's listening. But in the American ones, all I'm going by is sometimes when the woman's name is mentioned in the first line, because on the Roud Index they give the first line. The American ones, it seems to be mostly Mary. So,
They maybe like it better.
Maybe they don't like Janet. Maybe there aren't two
They
Janets.
don't like the name.
Indeed.
You can't really legislate for what people will. And sometimes people have find a song, and they want to put their mother's name in it, or they want to put their sweetheart's name in it.
There's no sort of scientific process about the names. It's just I'm always quite interested. I'm just quite interested. I'm just quite interested in the names. That's all.
I'm interested as well. I like the fact that different names come up all the time. Some names never come up, which are actually quite common in Scotland or even England at the time, and nobody ever sings about them. But no, it's a ballad which has always been popular. I mean, Greg and later, if I could just have a quick count of that, has 9 versions collected from round about Aberdeenshire.
Right.
It starts off with Thomas of Winsbury, where the tune actually is. Oh, I should have sent you this tune so you could do it for me. I can't do it myself because I'm helpless. Most of the tunes are similar to each other. Actually, I'll take a photograph of that and send it to you. If you don't have do you have the Greg Duncan?
I don't have Greg Duncan. No, it's one of the ones I'm missing from my shelves.
Right. I'll send you a couple of photographs from Greg Duncan so you can have a look and see what the tunes should be like. And as I say, my sight reading is hopeless, and I never ever do it in public. It's fascinating that it had that kind of grip. It was still popular in the early years of the 20th century, and probably a good bit later than that, because not all of Greg's informants were old people. Some of them were actually quite young.
Okay.
And certainly in the early days of the folk boom, I always call it the folk boom. I always get annoyed when people say the folk revival, because in our household it wasn't actually even revived, it was alive and kicking, and we had traditional songs and ballads sung at parties and around the house. But at the height of the folk boom, quite a lot of people from Aberdeenshire were singing songs which I later found in the Greg Duncan collection, which is really interesting, and in Dundee as well. But nobody collected at that time. I think that's one of the great things about folk collecting. What is collected depends on a collector turning up at the right time.
And then choosing to keep the song in the collection after he's collected it, of course. Yeah. There's all sorts of levels of censorship that go on with this sort of thing.
There are. And of course, Cecil Sharp notoriously excluded the gay verse from his version.
Of course.
From Thomas of Winsbury or whatever it was.
I've got a sharp collected one here in front of me. Let's just double check that. I'm sure he did cut it out.
I have that reference somewhere
Yeah,
myself,
yeah, no,
whatever it
no,
was.
that yes, quite right. It's not here. It's not here. He's got rid of it. But yeah,
No, no, he could be. This is another thing. The collections could be censorious.
yeah,
The
exactly. Yeah,
the the working classes, the rural working class or the urban working class, could actually be quite direct about certain matters, certainly in song.
yeah,
And I think the most of the collectors, and there's nothing wrong with being middle class. Some of my best friends are, but they were mostly kind of respectable people and really didn't, they censored things, which even
yeah.
people like, well, Hamish Henderson never censored anything, and I'm not sure McCall ever did. But some of the collectors from the School of Scottish Studies did. But don't tell them I said that, because they're nice people.
But you mentioned sharp collecting. So in England as well, this was. I mean, there are 25 entries in the Roud Index for England, although some of the
Mm-hmm.
duplicates must be. But if you look at locations, it's all southern England: Somerset, Hampshire, Dorset. That's it. Somerset, Hampshire, and Dorset. It's at least it's found there.
Interesting, isn't it? The West Country.
And yeah, I mean, but Somerset, Dorset, Hampshire are same kind of area of the country rather than yeah. It's not Hampshire, Norfolk, and Warwickshire or something. It's this little area, yeah. And so that's quite interesting. And what are the names we've got? Thomas of Winsbury, Tom the Barber, Willie of Winsbury, Lord Thomas of Winesbury, Lord Thomas John Barley, a sea captain's
That's
daughter,
interesting.
John Barley. There we go. Willie of
You
Winsbury.
wonder, yeah. You wonder how many of these are mishearings. I always love the idea of Tom the Barber, because you like to think of the king going about shaving people and cutting their
Well,
hair.
the hairdresser thing, Tom the Barber. Yeah, that's what I think people instantly think of when they hear Tom the Barber. And there are quite a few tunes for this one. Bronson, for example, provides 22 tunes. But then obviously Bronson's collection was done in the late 1950s, I think, so or across the 1950s and beyond. So anything that's been found after that isn't included, but we've got 22 tunes which are split into four groups, and Group D has tunes 8 to 22. So the majority of these tunes, Bronson felt were in the same kind of family. If I go to Group D, version 8 onwards, let's have a look, see if I can sing any of these. Here we go. Newfoundland, 1922, Young Barber. There was a lady living in the East, and she was clothed in green, and she was sitting on her father's castle wall, when she saw the ship sailed in, when she saw the ship sailing in. So that's quite a nice sort of
That's
what
a
you, what
nice
you,
little
what
tune,
you might
isn't it?
call sort of
Yes,
standard solid melody. And so
yes.
so that was number 13 in Bronson. And so
Mhm.
in that section they're all kind of similar sort of things. All the Newfoundland ones are obviously going to be, I think they're all Newfoundland. That might be
Mhm.
why as well. Um,
Yeah.
oh, here's one from here's a Scottish one. The Macmath manuscript comes back to what we are talking about last week. The Macmath manuscript and the
The
Macmath collection.
math, yes.
Learned September 13th, 1886, from his aunt, Miss Jane Webster, who learned it 50 years earlier in Kirkcaldy, from the singing of Samuel Galloway. So 50 years earlier, so 1830, middle of the 1830s. We can sort of tangentially track going back from. There was a lass in the north country, and her clothing it was the green, and she's looked over her father's castle wall, for to see her father's ships sailed in, for to see her father's ships on sea.
I quite like that tune as well. My favourite bit in the Bronson is actually number two, where they have a Manx singer, obviously, who sung in Gaelic, and it has been rendered phonetically. But it is interesting that it has. I don't know if it's in the Scots Gaelic tradition. I've never, I've never heard it in
That's
Scots
right.
Gaelic.
It's the only entry for the Isle of Man in Roud, in the Roud Index. It's the only entry for the Isle of Man, sung by a Tom Kermode. That's a
Yes.
that's a vague link. Maybe I don't know. I wouldn't be able to do his family tree, but the well-known film critic Mark Kermode is from the Isle of Man, so that's a connection in my mind.
Well,
Anyway,
there you are.
but
Could be a connection,
I wonder
yeah.
how common Kermode is as a surname on the Isle of Man. Whether there's a connection
Hmm.
there, but that would be.
I must look that up just for interest.
So it's in Gaelic, but there's there's a translation underneath. It is not by Duke or Lord or any gentleman at all, but the son of Tom the Barber who sails the sea with yourselves. I don't know how well that translation will line up with the transcripted melody, but yada yada da 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 yada da G minor. Da 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 dyan da 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 dun da 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 da. That's quite a nice
Mhm.
sort of striding
Hmm.
sort of minor melody. But yeah,
I'd love to hear it sung. Wonder if anyone's done that commercially. I don't know of anyone having done it commercially.
no, not me neither. I
Um,
don't know. But that is the only Isle of Man entry, and it's two in Bronson. So there's
uh,
a few varying melodies there, and then I found some more in some books I have. Um, if anyone's got the book The Wanton Seed, I mean I'm looking at page 112 because I've got the original old EFDSS publications one as opposed to the new editions. We've got Tom Barbary, tune from Charles Bull, Marchwood, Southampton, Hampshire, June 1907. And the text, a couple of verses come from a different source from the Gardner collection, but we've got "'Twas of a brisk young lady fair, 'twas of a brisk young lady fair, that was dressed all in green, and she looked right over the high castle wall, for to see her father sailed in, for to see her father's ship sailed in, for to see her father's ship sail in." That's not bad. And it's a
mhm.
sea captain. It's not by any sea captain nor by any gentleman, but it is by you, young Thomas, your honoured servant man. Do we have the queer verse in it? I'm not sure we do. No, it's not there from that one. But that's quite a nice melody. It's there's an Irish one, so I was looking for. I think there might be an audio recording somewhere in the world of Mrs. Mary McGrath from County Wexford, 1974, but I can't get access to it. I was looking for this before we started the interview. But her
Ah,
version is printed in the 1975 issue of the Folk Music Journal. It's in an article on, but it's by an article by Tom Mullany called "The Singing Tradition of Irish Travellers." And so there's a few different Irish
Hmm.
songs in there. And this one's called Johnny Barden, Barden. And we've got For There Being a Red Squire Love in Edinburgh Town. Ya da 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 da, E minor, da 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 da. For there being a red squire love in Edinburgh town, and a very red squire was he. He'd reared a comely daughter, a girl, and a very fine girl was she. Hallo, and a very fine girl was she. So that's sort of significantly different from the ones in Bronson, I think. That's kind of
Mhm.
a contrast, I think, too.
It is, yes.
And follows the same thing. Have you got some heavy sickness, or are you in love with some young man? Those are the two options. You don't look very well. You're either really ill or you're in love with someone. Those are the only two options, for that sort of thing.
Well, I suppose. Love is a dizziness after all.
I've got no heavy sickness or in love with no young man. But there's one thing in trouble to me, my mind. My love is staying too long. Is he a lord? Is he an earl? A man of fame? Or is he one of our own seamen that's ploughing the raging main? Sure, he is one of our own seamen. Johnny Barden is his name. Oh, tomorrow morn at 8 o'clock it is hung Johnny Barden will be. Sure, father, she said, if you hang Johnny Barden, you'll get no good of me. So he's threatening to hang her, and she's saying, you won't have any more of me otherwise. He's called down his merry men by 1 and 2 and 3, expecting Barden to be the last man, but the very first man was he. He came tripping down the stairs with his suit of silk. Got a very nice suit in this one. He's made of silk. With his 2 dark eyes and his curly hair, and his skin was as white as milk. Ah, if this Johnny Barden daughter, he said, if it is Johnny Barden, I don't blame you at all. Sure, if I was a woman, as I am a man, 'tis in love with Johnny Barden I'd fall. So we've got that there. Will you marry my daughter, Johnny Barden? Will you sit at the table and dine with me, and the merry bells of Scotland would ring, and they'd ring so merrily to welcome back Johnny Barden and his wife back to their own country. So yeah, that's a good comprehensive version that includes all the relevant bits.
Isn't it?
And one last one I found in a book I mentioned last week when we had the Johnny Scott chat, Sam Henry's rather huge book, Songs of the People. And in here is...
I want one of them.
You want one of them? Yeah. I've got another one here, another Irish one, The Rich Ship Owner's Daughter, sung by Harry Pollock, a blacksmith. There was a lady in the east. She dressed herself in green. She leaned herself at her father's castle wall for to see the ship sail in. For to see the ship sail in. Yeah. What ails my daughter?
That's the tune of something else.
It's quite reminiscent of something. I can't pinpoint
Yeah, I can't
it.
think what it is, but I definitely know the tune. Yeah.
Yeah. I have suffered with no sickness, or I'm in love with no young man. Is he a man of might or a man of fame? And is he one of the littles, or is he one of my little sailor boys? He is not a
Like the
man
way
of...
he said that.
Sorry?
I don't like the way he said, "My little sailor boy."
No, it gives it an
Sounds
odd
a bit
sort of...
sinister from me. Yeah.
It gives it an odd sort of leaning, I suppose. Or is he? He is not a man of might. He is not a man of fame, but he is one of your little sailor boys that is ploughing the rough main. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, he will go up the gallows tree. Do not say that, father, for if my true love you do kill, you will get no good of me. Will you marry my daughter? Ah, we don't get the gay verse. He called down his sailor
Ah,
boys. John Barber used to be the foremost man. Will you marry my daughter? He says, and take her by the hand, and be the heir of all my land. I'll, I will marry a daughter, but I'll neither eat nor drink at your table, and a fig for all your land. For the more Johnny Barber is my name, I'm heir of West Scotland, and where you could give your daughter £10, I could give her 81. An alarmingly specific sum of money, 81.
hmm.
But yeah, so that's an interesting one there as well. I was quite pleased to find that one. Uh, Sam Henry's book seems to find versions that aren't in Child and Bronson, which is very good. Nice to have a collection with some other versions. But yeah, so there seems to be a good spread of tunes as well, which is nice. It's not just one thing.
Yeah, and it would be nice if we could encourage people to do some of the other tunes. The one which is commonly used is a lovely tune, and it does actually suit the words. But
Yeah,
yeah, I like, you know, the Barbara Allens that I have got about 27 different tunes, and some of them are very distinctly different.
yeah, that's right.
Um,
But yeah, that main tune that everyone uses now for Willie of Winsbury is very similar, mostly similar to Jill on Graham, to the only tune available for Jill on Graham. But then, yeah, so source recordings.
well, it seems a shame it's been hijacked by something
Yeah, I know,
else.
isn't it? Yeah,
There you go. That's
yeah.
what happens.
This is child ballad appropriation going on here. Just nicking other ballads coming around here, nicking our tunes. Um, and then in terms of the oral tradition source recordings, there are some, although some are harder to find than others. I've got I think the main one for I think on the folk revival, if you want to call it the folk revival, people either sing the Andy Irvine one with that Jill on Graham melody, or they sing the one from the Irish traditional singer Robert Cinnamond,
Mhm.
which is at a very good topic LP called "You Rambling Boys of Pleasure" from 1975, middle of side one on there. But that track did then get put on The Voice of the People, Volume 17. The that's the one called Ballads. It fell on a bonny summer day, which I think so. A lot of people know it from that, and
Mhm.
so we got that one. That's really popular on the folk revival. That one as well. There because of the first line, there was a lady lived in the West. Or that does cover other ballads as well that are not this song. It's one of those nondescript title first lines,
Mhm.
but it can be linked to the rich ship owner's daughter. Um, and then Another Ireland one, we've got Joe McCafferty. This is, I think, this has only been found. This is very unknown, I think, because the only time this recording has been put out in the world was on a 1975 Leader LP, and you can't get them anymore. At least not new or anything. They've never been reissued because it's Leader, so they're in the bottom of that cupboard. But it's the one of those nice grey gatefold Leader LPs with the huge booklets, and it's folk ballads from Donegal and Derry collected by Hugh Shields. And
Mhm.
in the middle of it's side A, track two, Joe McCafferty singing John Barber. So it's from Donegal. There's a Donegal version there, which is available to hear. I will play a clip of that one because I've got the LP. And a couple of Scotland ones as well. We've got Stanley Robertson. There's an interesting case here. Stanley Robertson, phenomenal singer. I have an enormous amount of time for listening to Stanley Robertson. But he sings that if you want to call it the Andy Irvine melody, which is interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, that well, Stanley was a great singer and storyteller, and sometimes the storytelling merged into the singing. So he may have heard Andy's version. He may have had a version I don't think his Auntie Jeannie had.
No,
I don't think Lizzie had either. But he might have had a version, and just the tune just kind of merged. But it's an
indeed.
it's
If
an
anyone's got the
interesting
sleeve
take.
notes, it's on a CD of his. If anyone's got the sleeve notes, if they could look it up, that'd be very helpful. It's on a 2009. Oh, it's a posthumous album of his, 2009, called "The College Boy: Family Gems and Jewels from the Traveller Tradition," and it's on there. Willie of Winsbury. That's a 2-disc, 35 tracks, 2-disc of Stanley Robertson. I've got the CD, but it's 200 miles away in another house. But if there's sleeve notes, it'd be good to know what they are. And there is one other Scots recording that we have access to. It's on the Kister Riches site. It's a recording of Betsy White, who's come up occasionally on the podcast. Betsy White being just saying Betsy White. If anyone recognises the name, Betsy White is on the Muckle Sangs LP CD. She's one of the only sources we have for a field recording of Tam Lin, which is very cool. So,
Lovely woman.
so the recording we've got of Willie of Winsbury from Betsy White is actually some fragments of it. I think it was collected by Peter Rich Cook and Linda Williamson, and the little bits of notes in the Kister Riches page says Betsy White knows the words, and her husband Bryce White knows the tune of the song. They start together, but Bryce takes over. He eventually gives up and declares he is not interested in old songs, though the listeners praise his voice and style. So there we go. I'll play a bit of that as well in the episode break. But basically, Robert Cinnamon, Stanley Robertson, Joe McCafferty, and Betsy White are the field recordings that we have access to, properly have access to. There are some other ones, the American ones. There are some American field recordings made by Helen Hartness Flanders, but they were made on wax cylinder, and years and years later, I mean decades later, they were finally transferred to cassette, by which point, you can't do much, you can't listen to them really, and they have been made digital, and the individual pages on the Roud index for these give links to the Internet Archive, and you can try and hear and track down those recordings. So the recordings are available, but once you actually dive into it and find the right song, it's unlistenable and a waste of time because it's wax cylinder that has been made digital like 60 years later. So, but they do exist.
It's sad it wasn't done earlier, but
I know.
possibly the technology wasn't there.
Yeah, but we do have but there, as part of that, there's a recording of Johnny Barber sung by Agnes Torp in 1939. There's Johnny Barber sung by Lily Dolorme in 1941, and the recording of May Louise Harvey singing Fair Mary in 1934, all in Vermont and New York. That's the two places Helen Hartness Flanders recorded. So yeah, we've got 4 that we can listen to, and there's a handful more that, by the nature of time and wax cylinders, are unlistenable. But, so it's more found in sort of collected and print, but less so in field recordings. But obviously, other versions were collected from other people, just not recordings made. So there's that, I suppose. But yeah, we'll leave things there, I suppose. And this is an interesting song. We'll discuss this a lot more with Sophie later on. But yeah, this has been excellent to have you back on again. I think, yes, that was 2 in a row, and we'll give you the rest of this season off. There's no more appearances for you in this season, although we are due to do one in November, I think. So in the next season, season 8, we've got one more song history from you there. So until then, Sheena Wellington, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
A huge thanks again to Sheena Wellington for providing us with the history of Willie of Winsbury. And now for some recordings of traditional singers. What you're going to hear now is John Barber, sung by Joe McCafferty, Willie o' Winsbury, sung by Betsy and Bryce White, There Was a Lady Lived in the West, or The Rich Ship Owner's Daughter, sung by Robert Cinnamond, and Willie of Winsbury, sung by Stanley Robertson.
There was a lord lived in this town. He had only one loved daughter, Jane, and as she stood in her father's castle walls, she was watching the ship sails on. And she was watching the ship sails on. What ails you, her father did say? You look so pale and wan, nor have you got some sore sickness, he says, nor deceived by some young man. Man are deceived by some young man.
Eyes that are rolling in his head, and his skin was like the milk, and his skin was like the milk. Oh, will you take my daughter, he said, will you take her by the hand, for to eat and to drink at the table with her, and be fed of all my land, and be heir to all my land.
There was a lady lived in the west, and she was dressed in green. And she leaned over her father's castle wall for to see the ships sail in. What is wrong with you? Her father did say, you look so pale and wan, for you must have some sore sickness, or have lain with some young man.
The king, he has this long time back has been a prisoner in Spain, and his daughter Janet, she has wee Willie of Winsbury Lane. Come tell to me, my daughter Janet, by the truth of my right hand, it's day ye suffer for your ear sickness, or he you're laying wi' a man.
And I'll put links to those tracks in the show notes. I just want to take a minute or two now and tell you about our Patreon. In the Roud is on Patreon. If you feel you can support the podcast with a small financial subscription, then please do consider signing up. Patreon is where we cover more songs from anywhere in the Roud Index, as opposed to the main podcast's numerical order. Recently we had our 10th Singer's Choice mini-season. Singer's Choice is where one singer guest comes on for 3 episodes, and we dive into 3 songs of their choosing. And this week sees the start of our next Singer's Choice mini-season, featuring a guest who was on the podcast back in Season 2, when we talked about Roud 14, The Demon Lover. It's Emily Portman. I'm so pleased that she's back for 3 episodes. This week, we'll be looking at the song labelled Roud 602, a song called Our Captain Calls All Hands, with song history provided by Vic Gammon. If you want to hear these episodes, plus gain access to the entire back catalogue of bonus episodes, then please do head over to patreon.com/intheroud, and you can sign up for either £5 or £10 per month and receive regular bonus content. That's patreon.com/intheroud. Now on to the second half of this episode. To chat more about Willie of Winsbury and other things too, I was joined by returning singer guest who was last on the podcast back in season 3 to discuss The Cruel Brother, and now she's back for this one. It's Sophie Crawford. Well, hello and welcome back to In the Roud, Sophie Crawford. Hello.
Thank you for having me, Matt. It's very kind of you to have me back.
Oh, it's lovely to have you back. I've never, as we've had quite a few repeat guests already. I was never, it's always good to have people back because, it's just nice to have people back. But it was never can't have too many people back too regularly. So, but there are enough songs in the Roud Index and enough songs and enough singers that everyone can be spread out a bit. But at the same time, it's good. It's nice to have you back and for such a good song as well. But how are you? How's things?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we're just off the back of the Queer Folk tour, which I was lucky to see you at. So yeah, well, we got to sing this very song, so it feels very relevant.
That's right. Queer Folk gig was it was a little tour, wasn't it? And you was somewhere in the middle of that tour was Sheffield, wasn't it? At the Wild Traditions.
Yeah, what an amazing club.
That was a lovely night. That was a lovely night. That wasn't it? Yeah, it was great. And yes, we got to sing together in some house songs.
Yeah.
And then some questionable harmonies, I'm sure. And,
I loved it. It was a great vibe.
And then, yeah, an excellent gig. I got at least 2 name checks from George because if I'm in the room, he can't help but either name check me or take the piss out of me, both of which are fine with me.
You're okay with it as long as you get your walk-on mention. Yeah,
yes, as long as people remember that I exist, it's fine.
Matt Quinn, say your name.
It's. I was talking to George afterwards, and it's that line in Pirates of the Caribbean in the first one when whatever his name is says to Jack Sparrow, "You are by far the worst pirate I've ever heard of," and Jack Sparrow says, "But you have heard of me."
There you go. You're after a bit of notoriety.
As long as the name's out there, it doesn't matter. Just remind people that I'm around,
Matt Quinn. Yeah.
But yeah, it's lovely to hear you sing this song then as well, and that was in fact when we spoke about you coming on this episode as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's historic and meaningful.
Indeed. So yeah, Willie of Winsbury. We've heard all on the song history side from the fabulous Sheena Wellington earlier on, and so where does this song start for you? Was this? And I know that, as you always say, when you ask people for suggestions of songs that have queer readings and all that sort of thing, this is the song that gets the most amount of recommendations because of what it is.
Yeah.
But within that, was this a song that you already knew about, or was this a song that came to you through the Queer Folk project?
No, it was a song I already knew. So I think that was what was quite nice. It was that I already knew it. I already loved it. I'd heard it from initially Anne Briggs. Anne Briggs's recording, I think I'd heard a lot of other people singing it in sessions and things, and really liked it. The story's quite unusual, and also, well, because it's happy, right? I love that in your history thing, saying like this is a happy story. But also, some of the imagery in it is really striking. Her berry brown gown, like that's a really sort of the poetry of it is really striking. So I knew it already. I already really loved it as a song. And then when we started doing Queer Folk, and one of the strands being thinking about what is a queer folk song, this one, like, to a sort of embarrassing degree, just kept on coming up. Like, everyone, as soon as they heard we were doing the project, they would say, "Oh, but have you heard of this song? It's Willie of Winsbury." And I sort of love that it's so present for people in their mind as being a sort of queer folk song. And I loved in the history section they said, "Oh, it's sort of known as the gay folk song." And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. So yes,
Yeah.
I knew it before just as a song, and then Queer Folk has all been about reframing it or just, making people aware of some of the content of it. Yeah.
Indeed, this does seem to be the song that even for people who weren't even aware of the idea of sort of of this whole of the thing you're doing in
Yeah.
taking songs we already know and looking at them in a different way and seeing if there's a queer reading there. For even people who weren't even sort of aware of that kind of concept at all and just hadn't even thought about that as a thing,
Yeah.
we're already kind of aware that Willie of Winsbury is that. It seems to,
Yeah.
because it's so explicit in this song. It's not, as I say,
Right.
I've said to people, it's not in subtext, it's text.
Exactly,
It's
exactly. It's totally present, and it's really interesting because I remember you were saying, what is it, was it 17th century? Say the first recording of it, or like you said it was like 17 something was when Roud said the first. Anyway,
yes,
it
that's
was
probably
something.
right. That's probably right. I've
It was
forgotten
something
already.
around that. Sorry, no. But like, but it's interesting because obviously within popular culture in the 17th century, if we're looking at like Elizabethan popular culture, like homosexuality was very present in plays, for example, if we think about like what was going on theatrically. So it's interesting to see it, like it makes sense basically that it filtered into music and that we've managed to maintain this song in the sort of folk canon. I guess what I'm just really struck by is that it hasn't been forcibly edited out. Obviously in some recordings people do miss out that verse, but it's quite impressive that it survived in the form that it has.
Yes, I was about to say something along those lines. It's interesting that it hasn't been sort of, yeah, heteroified in a way,
Yeah, it
It's just
hasn't been meddled with because I mean that's what's so with songs about loads of stuff. Obviously were cut up and bits were cut out to please the collector. So it's interesting that this one, I don't know, this verse stayed in. And I wonder if that is because it just wasn't seen as where the emphasis of the song was, if the narrative emphasis was seen to be that bit about him not taking the land, right? Like whether it was actually that's the punchline of the song, which it sort of is, it's where
well,
it ends.
that's maybe what Dick Gaughan thought. We were talking about Dick Gaughan
Yeah, I loved that.
and he's saying that he never performed it again after that one time when
Like,
the working class
yes,
audience cheered when he refused the land. He says
yeah,
no.
exactly. And like that's at the end of the song. That's where the emphatic section is. So it might be that it's sort of slid under the I don't know, just slid in there. But it's strange. It's extraordinary in that regard that it's stuck around for so long.
Absolutely. I was just doing a quick check to see. I mean, I should have done this not in this immediate moment, but looking at other versions to see if it's always there. And
Yeah.
because
Is it?
in my head there are sort of three different strands to this song. You've got the ones called Willie of Winsbury.
Yeah.
You've got the one that originally, well, not originally, but the because we've got a field recording of it from the Irish singer Robert Cinnamond. There's a line that when people learn a song, this version, it stems back to the recording of him singing the version called "There Was a Lady Lived in the West." And then you've got
Mm.
this strand of Tom the Barber, or Tom the Barber, and or John Barber, and all these sort of things. And I was just
Mm.
seeing if in those three strands it's always there.
Is it?
I was just checking. Certainly, Willie of Winsbury, that line,
He
it's there in Willie of Winsbury because we know that.
Yeah, we know that.
In the Robert Cinnamon, there was a lady lived in the West. If I was a
Wait,
woman, as I'm a man, my bedmate you would be. So it's
there we
there.
are, we got it.
But I can't check. Uh, I was just trying to see if I could find any words, any lyrics to Tom the Barber. There's Tony Rose's version, Tom the Barber. I don't think it's there.
Okay, so they've
So
cut it out of
I
that
wonder
one.
if the top, but also Cohen Braithwaite Cohen, who listens to this, hello Cohen,
Hmm.
does sing Tom the Barber, but I can't remember where he got it from. But so I wonder if it's there or not in the one he sings. Let me know, Cohen.
Check. Yeah,
Uh,
Cohen, tell us.
So yeah, but it seems present almost throughout in sort of different, as if it's a key part of the song, and in some ways it is,
Well, it is because it's like it explains why it doesn't kill him. I mean, that is sort of
This is
a
true.
piece of narrative importance because if it's not there, then why does the father, who is so intent on murdering him, not kill him? I mean, often in songs where the dad wants to kill the boyfriend, they either do kill them, that's often the case, or there's a baby. Sometimes the baby makes you not kill the dad or let the dad escape. But it's pretty rare for the dad for the dad to be allowed to get away. Like you need a pretty good reason, and in
That's
this
right.
song, it's because he's good looking. So I think you need it. You need it in the song for it to make sense. For the end verse, I mean, you could. I don't know what I don't. That's why I'm interested by the ones that cut the verse out because I'm like, what's the rationale then? The dad just goes like, "I've had a change of heart. You seem like a good guy." But that's very rare in folk song for that to be the king or the dad perspective on the
Indeed,
boyfriend.
yes. Yeah, the child one version turns up, the version with a child in it, not the child version, turns up in a song we'll never get to on the podcast, but I've just mentioned it because I have to record things out of order a bit, and this is episode 4.
Mm.
But I've already done the history of next week's, and
Okay.
next week's is what is it? Willie of Douglas Dale. And that has it's a teaser for next week's. That has the child, the woman giving birth to a baby in the forest,
Yes.
sort of thing. But it does something different after that. But and that's the next child ballad as well. And
Okay.
then not the next round number, but the next child ballad. So Willie Douglas Dale is Child 101, and Child
Yeah.
102 is a song labeled Willie and Earl Richard's Daughter, which has the same plot, except that it's weird. Listeners are hearing me talk about this now with authority. Next week, you'll hear me discovering this
Yeah.
in the moment in the interview. The Willie and Earl Richard's Daughter has the same thing. The young man and the woman, the Earl Richard, his daughter runs off the forest and has the baby,
Hmm.
and Earl Richard finds this, and then the plot carries on with a little bit in which I think he gives the man a reprieve, but because he's got a grandchild,
That's it. That's
and
it.
then names the grandchild Robin Hood. But in that, it's because he has a grandchild, so he says, "Although I would your father
Father,
hang, but your mother
hang.
is
Your
dear to
mother's dear
me,"
to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
all that
yeah. Which is
stuff.
a great line.
But in these songs, in this one we're dealing with today, he's just decided that he's so fit that he's gonna he's gonna not kill him.
He's fine with it. He's fine with it, and like
Yeah,
that is an important.
daughter dear, I understand why you ran off
Yeah,
with him, and I
yeah.
would do the same, basically. That's what we.
Exactly, exactly. It's a high level of empathy,
Yes,
um, which
hard agree, as people would say
which
nowadays.
exactly, which again is really unusual. It's like very,
Yeah,
very unusual, and particularly we've got this king who is not objectively not a very nice guy. He strips his daughter naked. He's been in prison somewhere doing what's this guy been up to? And he wants to go and hang someone and gets this marauding. It's not great. So it's not the ending you expect. You got to admit,
yeah.
I don't think you would expect from that behaviour that we're being set up for a happy ending, riding off into the sunset, which is what this is, which is so unusual for a folk song. I mean, usually, if this were any other folk song, I think they would be dying in each other's arms, wouldn't they? Isn't that usually how it ends?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm amazed how some of the child ballads have. There was one we covered with Steve Roud. It might have been the Gay Goshawk, or it might have been something else where
Oh my God,
there's
yeah,
a bit of
yeah.
Romeo and Juliet in the ending in terms of one of them pretends to be dead and the other one finds
Oh.
out she's died, and there's a bit of Romeo and Juliet in there, and this whole discussion about were these folk songs around then, and so Shakespeare was taking tropes from already
Oh, I
existing
think
folk songs,
definitely.
or were these storytelling tropes just in existence and Shakespeare used it, and then they became used in the writing of these ballads?
Yeah, big sort of circle. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. So that's why it's like with this one, it's like I don't know. We don't know if it's based on a real person. It doesn't really matter, I guess. But I guess what it's acknowledging is that those feelings existed. Obviously, we know that. We know that those feelings existed. We know people acted on them, and we know that was part of life. But what's unusual, obviously, is the preservation and also, yeah, just the way it sort of snuck under the radar. I wonder if part of it is also maybe the class of the person in the song, that it's a king saying it. I wonder if it was a sort of jolly ploughboy, if it might be a slightly different story, if that might not have lasted.
Maybe,
Yeah,
yeah, if it was someone, yeah, a worker rather than
rather than a king.
yes, indeed.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's
Um,
interesting because yeah, I've just found it. There we go. The earliest date we have for this one is 1769. I think is the earliest,
yeah, that's
and
quite
so
late, it's quite late, but it's quite
I think a lot of I think for the most part, apart from a few outliers where we can go back earlier, most we can trace most songs back to somewhere in the middle of
17 something.
the 18th century. And that was called Willie Winchberry, as in
Oh yeah,
winch,
Winchbury, that's weird.
WINCHBERRIE, Winchberry. Uh,
Weird.
and that's version B in child, if anyone's got it open at the moment, but I haven't. But yeah, so
Mm.
it's so Winchbury, but then there's lots of like I don't know what I was going to say. Yeah,
But was there one which was where what was his something Taylor? Is there something where he's got a Taylor in his name? Did I make that up? You said this one was
you
like someone I might make that Thomas something. I was
uh
only just thinking about Taylor representation, but yeah.
I don't think so. Or at least
Okay,
not.
no Taylors. That's fine. I just
No,
made that up.
the thing is, it's barbers. That's the thing where
Oh,
people worry about it
barbers,
because
barbers. That's it. Not a Taylor, a
because some
barber.
versions are called John Barber where it's BARBOUR, but there are
Oh,
some versions like the one that Cohen Braithwaite Coin sings called Tom the Barber.
Barber.
ER.
But then what I don't know actually in that case what barbers represent in folk song or what the trope is of a barber.
No, so some people do wonder whether it's this sort of line of hairdressers, you know, which seems,
Well,
it's
yeah, I guess
it's quite
it,
funny at the very least. Um,
yeah, absolutely. I just don't know what I'm trying to think. Like I actually don't think I've come across many folk songs containing barbers in them.
no, I mean, yeah, Cohen did uh sort of write something in his sleeve notes when because Cohen recorded this on an album, and
Mm.
he said the most convincing explanation of the term barber is that it is a corruption of Berber,
Oh,
BER, referring to
oh,
the people of North Africa.
that's cool.
Yeah, so if Cohen, if you've got any more thoughts on that, we'd love to hear from you.
I buy that actually a lot more than Barber. Because actually, now we're thinking about it, I just honestly can't think of any other folk songs that mention barbers. I mean, the close
Yeah,
shave is not really about
the,
a barber, but
no,
it mentions shaving.
yeah,
But yeah, it's very rare. I haven't, yeah. Whereas Taylors, obviously, they rock up all the
yeah.
time.
I wonder whether there might be some kind of link. I don't know, Barber to be some kind of because you get songs about High Barbary, as in sailing on the High
Mm,
Barbary,
that's
and I wonder
true.
whether that maybe Tom. I don't know. Could Tom the Barber just be a sailor? He's
From
on the
A Berber sailor.
he's on the High Barbary, sailing on the High Barbary. Is
Sure,
he
we'll
is
take
someone
it.
who has sailed on High Barbary? Are they known as barbers?
I'll
You know,
take it. They're Berbers sailing on the high seas to Barbary. Yeah, all of
yeah.
them. I
So
accept every interpretation. That's fine.
exactly. Many, well, I mean, presumably there must at some point in their history one of them must be true, but
Yes,
in
we'll
this day
take
and
it.
age, we'll take any and all.
We'll take it all, any and all. But we've got Winsbury as our surname for R1, which I guess makes
Yeah.
sense because he is so winsome and attractive and winning.
Well, yeah, he's that. Or I mean, Winsbury is a place, I think, isn't it?
Is it an actual place? Oh,
I'm looking it up now. Actually, I typed Winsbury into Google. The first thing that came up was Willie of Winsbury.
There we have it.
Maybe that's because the AI on Google, it knows what I look,
Knows
knows how I look up things.
knows what you're looking for.
But yeah, it's so yeah, there's a Winsbury in Shropshire.
Okay.
As far
Wow. Okay, so he could be a guy from Shropshire. I always got the vibe that Janet was maybe Scottish, but I don't know where I got that from. Maybe just that the name I associate with Scotland. But maybe not. I don't know where where's Janet from?
Janet turns up a lot in folk songs. There's a few child ballads. Janet appears not as often, but you know, she appears, or the name appears, you know, sometimes in place of Margaret and Marjorie and Maisry. There's this whole realm of names: Marjorie, Margaret, Maisry, and somehow Janet turns up as well.
Janet's in there.
In fact, there's a ballad called Fair Janet. We covered it a couple of seasons ago with Peggy Seeger came on to chat about
That's so cool.
Fair Janet. And so it's not an uncommon name, particularly in child ballads, but it was a name. The first time I ever heard in a folk song was in Willie of Winsbury, and I remember thinking, oh, Janet, that's odd.
Yeah, right. I know. I remember thinking the same thing. Like, we don't get a lot of shout outs to Janets in songs, but it's quite nice. It's quite nice in this one. I mean, again, it's an old name, so it makes sense. But yeah, Janet. I'm always interested in this song by the fact that what Janet looks like is very unimportant. So, like, you know, Willie, we know, has golden hair and pale skin and red silk clothes. Janet's, what do we get from Janet? We know she's pregnant, you know, and she's very pale, and she's wearing a berry brown dress. I mean, it doesn't sound like Janet is, you know, we're not lingering over her looks in this song.
No, even the narrator is more interested in what Willie looks like.
Yeah, what Willie looks like. He's the sort of focus of our lust and attention.
Exactly. Pale skin, long golden hair. He's clearly an elf from Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah. I do wonder if there's like an elfin energy to Willie of the Winsbury.
Or maybe he's an elf in terms of the elfin knight, you know.
Yeah, I do. I mean, yeah, it was interesting because of the ending, which I actually feel sort of relatively ambiguous in terms of, because I know some people interpret it as him being a king of another land, a king of another. He's got a kingdom somewhere.
Yeah.
He made, and so she's got loads and loads of land. But I think there is ambiguity as to, like, is he magic, which is why he's so hot, which is one option.
Because he's entranced even the men.
Exactly. He's a fairy, and fairies are quite gender bendery and, you know, fluid.
Yeah.
Or is he a socialist and he just believes in common land? So they're just riding off into their common land that they all share, which is, you know, she's the lady of as much land as you can ride in a long summer's day. But yeah, I think there's some ambiguity there that's quite nice in the song.
Yeah, I'd not thought of that in that way. I was just looking. I was just looking something up, but I've lost it. Yeah, it's all options are available. No,
yeah,
we're
he's
not
pale,
dispelling
he's
anything.
Got gold hair, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I'm trying to think of songs that are about male fairies. So I know lots about female fairies, but
I think in pop. Correct if I'm wrong. I think in terms of popular culture, are fairies given sort of are fairies portrayed in one gender over the other, or do they tend to be not a mix, but, you know, kind of, slightly gender bendery non-binary, or female fairies, male fairies? I don't know. I can't remember what the ones are. Well, Tam Lin is king of fairies.
Yeah. Is that king or queen? Oh, he becomes king.
He does.
Oh yeah, king of the fairies. Yes, that's true. But then he meets the queen of the fairies, right? Tam, and she's the one that's really angry, right?
It's a bit like the Raggle-Taggle Gypsies. He sang so sweet and so completely charmed the heart of a lady.
Exactly.
Maybe Willie of Winsbury, you know, sang something off camera in this ballad and charmed the heart of her father.
His very presence is enough to soften this murderous man's temper. So it's a pretty. He must be extremely good looking. Basically, something's going on here. So that's it. I mean, also maybe the king's come back from prison, and I don't know. He's like really smelly or whatever, and now he's seeing a nice clean man. Also, what's been going on in that prison in Spain is often
Well,
what we could wonder.
indeed. I mean,
Yeah.
if the story, if you're, however many years in an
Yeah.
all male
Prisoner
boarding
long
school
in
in a prison,
Spain.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
King's been a prisoner long in Spain. Yeah, so who knows? But the main thing is that that verse is so unremarkable in the
yeah,
context of the song. It's not what the song's about, which is really rare. When there's when we were doing research on queer folk songs, if there was something that explicitly mentioned queer anything, it was usually picked up on, and then it would be like, don't do it, or they were, and now they're dead. Whereas this one is like, it's very much a fact of life, and that is, yeah, it's just like, oh, it's a valid reason, and on we go on to our horses. So that's what's interesting about it. It's like a nice sort of everyday depiction of queer desire or whatever, which feels sort of more accurate. It's uncontroversial, essentially, which is unusual.
indeed. Sort of it's an odd balance in a way, because I don't know if you felt this with queer folk or not, in that in order for these sort of things to be not be normal or commonplace, that's not the right word, but that's not the right word, but you've got to sort of, in the end, what we want is for this stuff to be just there.
Yeah.
But in a sense, you have to make almost a song and dance about it. But you also, what we want is for there not to be a song and dance about it. Eventually, we want it to be commonplace. But in order to do that, you have to make it not commonplace to start with. You have to point it out. So it gets an odd balancing act somehow of shouting about it, but the end result is the not wanting to shout about it.
Yeah, for it to just be in it. Like, yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. And also, like, we've got to understand we're working with historical texts and songs, and it was illegal. So, it's often that's where the gymnastics and acrobatics is going on in the text or songs, is people trying to, get around censorship, I suppose, cultural censorship as well as legal censorship. So that's why this song's really interesting. And it's not, no one acts on it, do they? But it's just shows that that it was there.
Exactly. No one acts on it. No one acts on it, but the king clearly states, "I would if I could."
Yeah, I would if I could. If I was a woman as I am a man, It's like it's pretty powerful. So yeah, I think it's an important one to have in the canon, and to have in the canon with the queerness acknowledged, because it's interesting that hasn't really, I mean, as much as it's been acknowledged as the gay folk song, if you think about the ways in which I don't think I've ever seen anyone present it in those terms before, right? Like they've
tended not to point it out.
Yeah, it just happens. It just happens.
It's just part of the thing. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, we're pointing it out, which I think is worthwhile.
Lovely. Well, I think we'll move on with we're under a slight time pressure with this interview, so we'll just we'll shift on to the recommended listening. So you've mentioned a couple already. Anne Briggs being a key one for you.
Anne Briggs, the ultimate singer, in my opinion. I mean, my God, yeah, wow, that recording is off the chain, and she's my source for this one.
There we go, and that's 1971. That's her
1971.
That's
Anne Briggs,
the eponymous first LP on Topic Records. Anne Briggs.
What
in the middle of side one, amazing album.
Hard to beat, in my opinion. That is a crazily good album. Anne Briggs' version, and then Anais Mitchell much more recently, and I think actually Anais Mitchell's version sort of brought this song to people's attention who might not really know much about this genre of music / this kind of song, full stop. So it's quite important, I guess, in terms of widening audience.
Sure, yeah. That's an album she did with Jefferson Hamer in 2013 called child ballads.
There we have it.
Just a whole LP, a whole CD of child ballads, and it opens the album, in fact, and it is the song that won them Best Traditional Track at the 2014 BBC Radio 2 Folk Awards.
There we go. It's a big track. It's a big track.
So this is an award-winning song. This is an award-winning song.
We know it. But you had a big long list.
So some other names. I think the key one, as we mentioned with Sheena, was Andy Irvine.
Yeah.
Who recorded it in the 60s, I think, with a group called Sweeney's Men. But then he re-recorded it on his 2010 album called Abacurra, and that's where I know this ballad. I think kudos to Anne Briggs and everything, but for me, Andy Irvine singing it on Abacurra, I don't think anything's been better than that.
Oh my God, I love this. Who's better? No, I'm going to listen to Andy Irvine.
I just think really great. Andy Irvine's such a great way of singing and delivering a song.
Okay, I'll listen.
And it's spectacular. And he's definitely the one that put that tune to it. The one that it's the same one you sing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that is a smash of a tune. Yeah, and it works so well. I mean, God, he's so great to have put that tune to it.
Yeah, but it was an accident almost because it came from a different song, and it was either False Foodridge or Jill and Graham. We never quite... In the episodes last season on False Foodridge and Jill and Graham, we did get to the bottom of that. But now, 6 months later, I can't remember. Okay, so if anyone wants to listen to those two episodes, they're next to each other in season 6. Go for it.
Yeah.
But Andy Irvine, and then, yes, there are other ones... Frankie Armstrong as well, we've had on the podcast last season talking about Little Musgrave, sang Thomas of Welshbury on a CD called The Garden of Love in 2000. But I don't really know anything about it in terms of where that one came from. So
cool.
But then, so there's that. There's a Nick Jones one that's not on an official album. It's one of not quite posthumously, he's still alive, but there's those series of Nick Jones CDs that came out in the 90s when he was not performing at all. They were called things like Game Set Match and In Search of Nick Jones. These were CDs of bootleg recordings and folk club performances, and there's an unreleased material, and the 2001 album Unearthed is a collection of concert, club, and studio performances recorded prior to 1982, and in the middle of that is Willie of Winsbury. And Nick Jones doing it, it's always worth listening to.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. That's cool. I love those recordings.
Jim Moray did it 2016 on the album Upsetterer, where he called it Tom the Barber, but he called it William of Barbary, because cool. he looked at the one that was sung to Cecil Sharp in 1906 by Mr. Gorge of Somerset, who called it Tom the Barber, despite the name Tom not being in the song at all.
I like that. I respect that.
And then I think, Jim Murray got it from Steve Turner in the end, who called it Lord Thomas of Winesbury. So there is all kind of mixing and matching here. And we know that Tony Rose sang it as well.
Nice.
That's on his 1982 LP called Poor Fellows. Okay. And then re-recorded in 1999 on a CD called Bare Bones. I must apologise to Cohen Braithwaite Kilcoyne for getting all of this muddled up earlier on. If you're listening, Cohen, I think you are reading Tony Rose's sleeve notes. For some 200 years, dating from the mid-17th century, the Barbary coast of North Africa. So there you go. I was right. I was just not...
Barbary.
I was right without getting the link right, if you see what I mean. I was thinking that North Africa and Barbary were completely separate things. Apologies to anyone who thought I was an idiot, because you're correct. I'm an idiot.
The same. Okay, that's cool.
But nevertheless, yes, and the king being in prison in Spain. Spain is closer to Africa than a lot of places are.
Yeah.
There's all these links. Anyway, that's by the by. And then Cohen Braithwaite Kilcoyne, we've got his first CD called Outway Songster from 2017, a marvelous piece of work. It was the first song I ever heard Cohen sing live, and marvelous stuff. People can check that out. And I want to mention Sam Sweeney and Hannah James as the last one.
Nice.
Because Hannah sang the Robert Cinnamon one, the There Was a Lady Lived in the West, as opposed to because not many people sing that one, I think. People tend to go for Willie of Winsbury, Tom the
Yeah,
Barber.
yeah, yeah,
And in that one, we've got his name's John Barlow in that one,
yeah.
and he's from the Isle of Man.
All right,
Uh,
Manx. That's
is
cool.
is he a lord, a squire, or a duke, or a man of noted fame, or is he young John from the Isle of Man that ploughs the raging main?
Wow. Okay, that we are getting a bit of a sailor theme.
Yeah, there's something there, isn't there? If you sort
Mm.
of dive, if you dive in, if you pardon the pun, if you sort of really go through it, he entered the room, young John Barlow, and the clothing he wore was silk, and his two blue eyes like the morning stars, and his skin was white as milk.
Wow, he's still hot. He's still a hot guy.
And I think it no wonder the king did say, "My daughter's in love with thee. If I was a woman, as I am a man, my bedmate you would be." So there we
People
go.
love that. People love that rhyme. Yeah, it
And
works well in the song.
yeah, and they get married at the end, and the last verse. Now fill your glasses to the brim, drink a health to your country, drink a health to young John from the Isle of Man, and to Lady Winsbury. So there's
Interesting.
another sort of is it a
A
mishearing
little.
or a sort of slightly weird congregation of Winsbury, Winsbury, Winchbury? They're all much of a muchness
So
in
at
there.
the end, she becomes Winsbury,
Yeah, Lady Winsbury.
and that's the first time we've heard that name in that song.
I think so. Yeah,
Cool. I like that.
there
That's
we go. Anyway, another tangent, and we'll leave. It wasn't a tangent; it was on point, but
it was
nevertheless,
perfectly on point.
we'll leave it there. This has been absolutely fantastic
Thank
to
you for
have
having me.
you back again,
So fun. Love it.
and yeah, we'll see you for some more. I see you at some point in the future. Whoops,
Thanks, Matt.
in the future of In the Roud. That'll be
Yeah.
marvelous. But until the next time, Sophie Crawford, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me. A king has been a prisoner, and a prisoner long in Spain. And Willie of the Winsbury has lain long with his daughter at home. What ails you, my daughter Janet, that you look so pale and wan? Oh, have you had any sore sickness, or yet been sleeping with a man? No, I have not had any sore sickness, nor yet been sleeping with a man. It is for you, my father dear, for biding so long away from home. Take off your berry brown gown. You stood naked upon the stone, that I may ken you by your shape, whether you be a maiden or no. So she's ta'en off her berry brown gown. She stood naked upon the stone. Her haunches were round and her stomach hung low. Her face was pale and wan. Oh, was it with a lord, or a duke, or a knight, or a man of worth and fame? Or was it with one of my serving men that's lately come out of Spain? No, it wasn't with a lord, or a duke, or a knight, or a man of worth and fame, but it was with Willie of the Winsbury I could bide no longer alone. The king has called on his merry men, oh, by 30 and by 3. Go fetch me this Willie of the Winsbury, for hanged he shall be. But when he's come, the king before, he was clothed all in the red silk. His hair was like strands of gold. His cheek was as pale as milk. Oh, it is no wonder, said the king, my daughter's love you did win. If I was a woman, as I am a man, my bedfellow you should have been. And will you marry my daughter Janet, by the truth of your right hand? Oh, will you marry my daughter Janet? I'll make you the lord of my land. Oh yes, I'll marry your daughter Janet, by the truth of my right hand. Oh yes, I'll marry your daughter Janet, but I'll not be the lord of your land. He's mounted her on a milk-white steed, and himself on a dapple grey. He's made her the lady of as much land as you'll ride on a long summer's day.
That was Sophie Crawford singing Willie of Winsbury. And that brings this episode to a close. What did you think? What are your thoughts on this song? I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to get in touch, feel free to drop me an email at intheroud@singyonder.co.uk. That's intheroud@singyonder.co.uk. Or visit the podcast on some social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/intheroudpod. Our Instagram handle is @intheroudpod, and our Blue Sky handle is @intheroud. If you're enjoying this podcast, I would very much appreciate it if you'd give us a little rating and review on wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, please do subscribe as well. It all helps to reach a wider audience and spread the folk song love. In the Roud is a media partner of Veteran, the traditional music label. Although this week's song does not currently feature on any of their releases, you can find details of their extensive catalogue on their website, veteran.co.uk. That's veteran.co.uk. One last huge thanks to this week's guests, Sheena Wellington and Sophie Crawford. Join me next week for episode 5 of this season. We'll be looking at Roud 65, which is Child Ballad 101. That's the song called Willie of Douglas Dale. This is another ballad that, as far as we can tell, has not been sung or even found since it was included in the Child collection. And so, as we have done in the past and in this season so far, I will be joined by resident unknown child ballad enthusiast Helen Lindley to dive into the world of Willie of Douglas Dale. Until then, that's it from me. Stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next time in the Roud.